Hey friends, and welcome to the Soulfire Sessions at the intersection of passion and purpose, where you align with what sets your soul on fire. We're your hosts, Alex and Cristina, and we're so grateful that you are here today. We are all about reclaiming clarity, rebuilding confidence, and designing a future that actually fits you. So take a breath, feel the spark, and let's step into the fire. Hi, Cristina.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
I'm cold today, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm also cold. I have my coffee here for our conversation, so I am warm enough to get started, and I'm really excited to meet Scott and see what he has to share with us today.
Me too. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Good morning, my friends from all across the world. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and thank you for just being very receptive to what some would consider an atypical conversation, but it's a conversation I think that moves the needle that most people need to hear, especially in today's culture.
I agree. And for the listeners, I had a good conversation with Scott last week, just understanding what it is he does, but I want you to hear it from him. So welcome Scott Burgess to the platform today. And Scott calls himself a human performance architect. Scott, what does that mean? Tell us what that means.
If you saw the list of accolades, credentials, school, certifications, things like that, when I have clients come over or people who have been just introduced to me or meet me and hear my story, the number one question, and I'm not kidding, I'm being very direct with this one, they go, what do you call yourself? And I say, you know something, the simple answer is I just fix people. But we're going to put a nice little couple adjectives and a couple of different nouns behind it, and we're going to call it the human performance architect. I'm all about bringing people back to their innate intelligence through performance. All people want to do is feel well, and they want to feel that they can achieve anything, and they want to feel that they can just keep going and moving without that drudge of no energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can fill in the blank. And I found an algorithm that has reversed all that. Or the best that I can say, reversed all that. There's been only one person I haven't been able to truly help yet. He was pretty dense in the Alzheimer's spectrum. So that was my toughest client so far. But that's basically how I would define a human performance architect. And I can go through the list of stuff, but I mean, we only have a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's important because, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, but we all struggle with stress. Some of us have chronic stress, and we know that chronic stress affects a lot of our health, mental health, physical health, all the things. We have people struggling with burnout and anxiety and depression, and we know that those lead to other, chronic illnesses as well. And so I think this is a great time to talk about it. And so just tell us a little bit about how you got there.
Well, the simple answer is I was fired from a job. And I had the rug pulled from my feet, and I was in the same town at the time. I was living in Florida. I was living in Boca Raton, Florida. And I met this gentleman, his name was Mike. And we were just talking about what my next steps were. And he was mentoring me somewhat. And he goes, you know something, I think you need to go meet my friend, John. And I said, okay. I was up for anything for the most part. Went to go meet John, and he was the OG of the human performance architect, if there was an OG to it. And after my first session with him, being broken, I realized that I wasn't broken, that life was happening for me and not to me. That was my outcome of my mental thought process as I was leaving. And in my first question, I said, how do I keep this going? I mean, I was talking, if you had a scale of 0 to 10, I probably felt like a 2 going into his office, just defeated, deflated, things like that, very stressed. And then when I left, I felt like a 9. And I was like, wow, how do I do that? And he goes, how do you know it's not going to stick? Everything that I had posed to him personally was a challenge back because of the program. It was the challenge of the language patterns that we choose to use every day. So I'm always very interested if there is even just a little nugget, a little granule of something different. I'm interested in learning what it is on that perspective. The full reason why is I have no idea whoever walks through my doors or who I get to meet or who I'm meeting online. You never know what they need to hear. And it's very important just to be open, because the one thing that really kind of put this in perspective for me is that no one knows shit. And as soon as you realize that, you know one more thing than the next person. So I go into almost every conversation, which is why when we were talking before last week, I was like, I almost don't want to know the questions, because it's very spontaneous and it's very authentic. And that's how I like to roll.
Yes, so that's how I feel about this call. So just for our listeners, I have not interacted with Scott at all before this call. Alex and Scott have had a conversation, but I have not. And I am so excited because of just the things that you just shared. So I took a couple of notes. The one thing you said was, once I realized that everything was happening for me, not to me, such a mindset shift of having that mental perspective that it's not happening against me, that it's happening for my good, it's for me. And then also just along your journey, things that we talk about a lot here at Soulfire are things like mentors, coaching, and then your mentor, introduced you to his network. And so then you had networking. And so those are all things that really resonate with us here at Soulfire. One of the things I wanted to touch on, just because our listeners may not be super familiar with some of the linguistic techniques or things that you're mentioning, are you talking about things like that the universe or your mind doesn't hear the word no? So if we use the word no, we're really saying something completely different. Are those the types of things you're talking about, or where are you going with that?
So after I met John, this is going to answer this question, but I'm going to go around the rotary first before I get to the answer of it. But I went down and I was in a position of, I don't know enough. Very deflated, very defeated. And so I went and I started studying all of these different courses, certifications, like that laundry list of just accolades that you have behind you that I felt that I needed at the time. Sitting here today, what I really needed was a shot of confidence in my personal authority to take over again. That's what was missing. That's all that was missing. And when I hear no, all I hear personally is, I didn't explain it well enough, or it didn't resonate in that word format as far as how it came across and how it was translated. So it resonates with that person. And that's the secret sauce, if I'm being very transparent with everything, is you never know who's going to be in front of you and what they need to hear. And so, for example, there's an old study that was done by Socrates. It was built up over time and it was added to it, but it was personality archetypes. Now, there's a lot of different personality archetypes. But I can walk into a room knowing, now it's not the Miller-Hyman, or the Scribs-Myers. Those are way too dense. They work. I'm not saying they don't work. I did study them. I went through them. But there was a simpler one that was done by Dr. Fleet back in the early 1950s, late 1940s when it was putting together. And it's 5 personality archetypes where you can just look at their facial shape in relation to physiognomy. And you can literally use and start pulling words out that's going to resonate with those people. Some people will say it's manipulation. It's not, because it all comes down to intent. And my intent for everybody is, when I meet somebody, is to get them to feel comfortable, to get them to build trust very, very quick, because you can't help somebody if they don't feel like they've been helped. It's just really that simple. So when someone comes to me, and Cristina, this is our first time interacting, so I'm looking at you and you're a stayer. You like certainty. You don't like doing anything unless you absolutely know. But the difference from Alex is she's more of a varietist. She likes that creative spark. She likes keeping things fresh and new, and idea after idea after idea, iterations keep going. And that's the first 2 primary archetypes between the both of your facial shapes alone. Then if you start combining that with physiognomy, then you can really start having some fun. Basically just getting things done a lot faster and a lot smoother, where all of a sudden you go, wow, he really knows me. That's how it works. So what do you think? So before you even go on, did that answer that question as far as your personality?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to an extent, I would say I like to have all of the information before I make a decision. So, but I think outside the box. So I'm very analytical, very strategic, outside the box thinker.
There's 5 types. So you got the stayer, which was the certainty, which is you have all the information. That's I need to know. Then there's thinker, producer. Then there's varietist. And then there's enjoyer. Now, typically speaking, there's never all five. There's some. A lot of people never master all five. There's never one. We always have a mix of between 2 and 3, and then does 2 and 4. So on average, most people are mixed between 2 and 3 personality archetypes, and then 2 and 4 after that. There's very few 5s. So when you get into the language patterns and then identifying with your facial shapes, and this also goes into body shape as well, and it really blows up. So there's a priority system as well. So there's a primary, secondary, and a tertiary modality there. And so then your secondary would be more of a producer. So you like to get things done, but you don't like getting things done unless you know for sure, because you don't want to waste your time. Right?
That sounds like me, though. I think I'm
You
like
have
that
producer
too,
in
though.
you as well. You have producer in you as well. When you look at someone's facial shape, so your first facial shape that comes out, Cristina, is right in this situation, this moment, is more of an oval. On Alex's side, it's more of a triangle here. Both of you definitely have more rectangular structure here, and that's the producer. And then you both have major thinkers, which is more of a larger format here and frame on the forehead.
So Scott, tell me, how would, like, I don't know that anyone would be like, you know what, I need to go to a human performance architect. I don't know that anyone would self-identify themselves as, you know what I need today? You know, if something's wrong with your eyes, you're like, I need to go to an eye doctor. So how would someone identify that they need to come to you and have a conversation with you?
Great question. So here's the root cause of basically everything, in my estimation and in my opinion. I'm sure there's going to be some differences out there, but for the most part, most people lose at some level as they're aging. Now that's from a toddler to a teenager to a young adult to an adult. They lose their self-identity through confidence and authority, or they reestablish themselves and they break apart from what their authenticity is. That's usually how it happens. Once that happens, it also breaks down the emotional systems. So the emotional systems, when they break down, when they lose registration of who I am, that allows the floodgates to open. And when that happens, then different systems will start shutting down. So if we were talking about the chakra systems, which is the energy systems of the spine, from 7 at the top of the crown or the top of the head down to the base root, which is the sacrum area, energy through the body goes vertically. And then once it starts going horizontally or diagonally like this, what ends up happening is we have a stuck emotional pattern. Now, as females, you're more willing to accept that than most males, although trust me when I tell you, most males need to wake up and understand that emotions are running the game, the entire game. And once they wake up to that, they'll get a lot more done in their life. And then once you start seeing those emotional patterns in relationship to their authentic selves, confidence and authority, then they'll start realizing why they're getting sick, on top of being poisoned by what we call healthcare and the food systems and everything else. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. For 20 plus years, I've been in healthcare designing patient towers, operating rooms, hybrid ORs. And in the beginning of my career, I really thought I was moving the needle. I was really contributing back. And now that's a bifurcated or a two-way street for me right there. On one side of that equation, yes, because I'm very good at what I do. And there's not a lot of people who know how to do what I do effectively and efficiently, where I can go sit down with an architect, an engineer, a surgeon, whomever inside the healthcare and say, here's what you need to do, here's how you get it done, and here's how long it takes to complete. But on the other side, I also know that system, and it is a system, that it's designed to make money off of you continuously. And they're not going to give you the answer coming out. And I recognize that because as an external consultant to the hospitals, I was noticing, now keep in mind, external consultant means you go back and you visit often. So you're not there every day. I was seeing the same patients and the same people. And I was like, I saw them last week, or I saw them 2 weeks ago, and these people are still coming back. I have no idea who they are. And the light bulb went off. I was like, this is not working, folks. So I went back to school and started studying. And again, on top of my own brokenness, when those two smashed together, I went on a mission, and that mission hasn't stopped. And I for myself first and then my family, because it's not selfish to think of yourself first, because you have to put your own mask on so you can help someone else. To make sure I was healthy, I was diagnosed with a cancer that wasn't true. It ended up being a skin allergy, which was a joke in itself. And then I was like, well, this is not going to happen to my family. So I kept studying and reviewing and finding out and just digging and digging and digging, to the point where I created the first ecosystem that if someone wanted to go see a human performance architect, I'm going to finally come around that rotary and answer the question, what do you do? How do you do it? I take you from where you are to where you want to be in less than 30 days, full stop. And I do it in a very systematic way, in a way that someone can understand, where they feel they have control, where they feel that it's not very, very atypical or different, and it's not a shock to their body. And the first way we do it is we get them to understand that the food that they're eating could or could not be good for them. And so we make sure that they're eating proper nourishing-based foods versus Doritos or Celsius drinks or all these Monster Energy. Things that they think are moving the needle for them, and they're really not. Then on top of that, we developed an app called My Deficiencies, where if you're on a single medication or multiple, you can type in that medication or synthetic vitamin, and it will tell you the nutrient deficiencies that are being created inside your body as a result of taking those, which is completely wild, because most people are like, you're kidding me. Because then when you jump into the regulations, the federal regulations about what supplements are, medications are, and what they do to the body as a result of long-term, because they don't have to announce those legally. They only have to report, did that drug kill somebody, yes or no? And that's how it gets approved or unapproved. We have choices and we have options. And then on top of that, we go back, we make sure that people are properly moving so the system can move well, so we can evacuate what we took in. So if I asked you both for a moment to go, take a deep breath, but don't exhale. And then don't do it right now. But what would end up happening? Eventually you would go, and your body would start shaking, because what comes in must come out. What you eat must come out. What you drink must come out. Everything has a replenishment system to it, an evacuation system. That's what the lymphatics do. So someone sees me, I get them from where they are, not feeling well, whether it be a mental issue, whether it be a physical issue, or both, and we get them to where they want to be really, really quickly. And I do it so fast and so efficiently. It's like, the questions I get normally are, why doesn't everyone know this? Why isn't this taught in school? I can't believe I did that. I put a post the other day up on social media, and I say, I help people who effed up their health get better really, really quick. It completely blew up. It was just like a crazy thought. I was like, I'm going to mess around today and just not even think about it. Every time I do a social media post, those are the ones that fly. It has like thousands and thousands of views. I'm like, this is crazy. But a lot of people reached out because they're like, yeah, I did the same thing. The result is, because people, they lost their confidence in how to express themselves, they're desperate. And there's no more reason to be desperate anymore. They need to be able to find someone who they can trust, who knows what they're talking about, and that is going to move the needle where they can have transparent information. Because I don't want someone coming to me going, well, what does Scott say about that? My wife will murder me. So we designed everything in a way where it's so simple, someone can access it themselves, and we teach everyone everything. We don't hold anything back. And the point is, most people in our lives, in our family, our direct families, they're not awake. And my wife and I tell the story all the time. I became awake before she did, and she was kicking and screaming. What are you doing that for? Or how come? Or that's such a waste of time. All these different things were popping up. And I just kept my head down. And then all of a sudden I got the question, what are you doing differently? Wow. How old are you now? I'm 51 years old, and I get a lot of comments saying, you don't look 51. What are you doing that's so different? And I'm like, well, let me tell you, are you interested? And I won't just jump into it. I'll say, what's your concern? And they're going to go, well, and I'll say, isn't that kind of crazy how you can look at me at my age and think I'm doing something that drastically different? And then I just stop talking, and then they keep going into their story, and they tell you everything. And because of the way I frame those questions, they're coming back and just vomiting information because they're looking for help, because they're tired and they recognize what they're doing is not working at all.
That's great. I just want to clarify what I think I heard. So I know, I mean, a lot of people know like what you eat is going to affect your health. Like if you're eating like junk, you're probably going to feel like junk. If you're eating healthier and nutritionally, you're going to feel better. So that one, I think most people know. Most people don't follow that rule, but most people know. Drinking the same, right? Like what you drink is going to affect your body, you know, whether that's alcohol, a lot of caffeine, if you're not drinking water, if you're drinking tap water and you have terrible chemicals in your tap water, whatever that is. But I think I also heard you say like your emotions and how you deal or do not deal with things can also affect that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's put it this way. Let's say, for example, out of both of you, who had a presentation more recently? If you had a presentation, all you had to do kind of like an interview with somebody.
Probably me.
Probably Cristina.
Yeah, probably me.
How did you feel when you went into that? Were you excited? Were you nervous?
I was probably more excited. I wasn't nervous.
So what was the difference of you being excited versus nervous?
Because I know the material. So I was very comfortable with what I was speaking about.
So would you classify that as being confident in how you had to speak?
100%.
Right there. That's it right there. So now the other side of that equation is, let's say you were still excited and you went into it open and honest and you know something, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say today, but let's have some fun getting there together. That's still confidence, but it's the acceptance, one, and the willingness, two, to be vulnerable. But most people think they have to be the expert in the room. And one of the things I learned early in my career, my healthcare career, when I was inside of a hospital was if I saw a nurse doing a procedure or a doctor and I didn't understand what it was, I would say, what's he doing? And I would just start having a conversation about it. So my curiosity took over completely. And that's the point right there. And that's why right now, and my goal, let me back up for 1 second. Once I take someone from not feeling well to feeling great, what ends up happening is your intuition skyrockets. You have that unbelievable, immaculate sound in your mind that just resonates. So my intuition I just spoke about just a second ago, tells me that both of you are very, very comfortable because you feel like you know me. And that's because of the way I'm structuring my tone, my language, my guidance, my storytelling. And that's why and how people trust me. But at the same point, I don't want people to rely on me. My mission is to make sure that someone learns from me so they can repeat what they learned inside their own ecosystem, their own family, and rinse and repeat it there as well. That's how we change this nonsense that we're living in. So my dedication and my purpose in this world is to do exactly that. And I did that through the nutrition side, the app side. We didn't talk about the mushrooms. We have a mushroom product line, and we use it in a way where not to push another supplement, but if you look at how it's called rhizomatic gardens, how mushrooms work, how they break down rock and they turn into soil, how those plants then interact with the soil, how that soils then pull in certain nutrient levels so they have a cellular hydration to them. So that then jives with the different blood types and things like that. Because it all comes down to one main issue when people are not feeling well. They don't have enough energy or electricity in their body to generate how they want to feel the right way. And it's really crazy when you break it all down, because all these different chemicals, like you talked about, Alex, in waters, they have an impact on us more than people recognize. Oh, that would never happen to me. Oh, it's only a little bit. Well, get that little bit times compound effect, which is every day in small amounts that builds up. And eventually that causes a big blockade or a dam. That's what beavers call it, right?
Yeah. That's so interesting to me. It's just really interesting how the body works with all the things. It's just, I don't think people think about all of the stuff they're intaking emotionally, physically, all the things, and how it can get you to these even more chronic illnesses. And then just kind of by removing those things, can help heal that instead of, it's really interesting to me. Thank you for sharing all that.
You're welcome. One of the action items that I take is I'll talk to my wife, regardless of whatever she says. This frustrated me, or that made me happy, or that was really cool, or whatever the emotion that's going on. Because once it lives inside here, it makes this energy system do this. And then that builds up frustration, resentment, and all those different other words and adjectives that we label emotions. One of the more profound from one of the mentors that I had was the emotion that you think you're feeling is not an emotion at all. It's a thought. It's a habituation of consciousness that gets stuck in a neurological thought pattern. And right there, I was like, oh my gosh, what did he just say? And then I had to go back and learn it and just dissect it. And that's exactly what it is. It's someone told me that if I burned myself, that was a burn. I have no idea what it is. It's damage to the cell, whatever you want to call it, right? But there's a different meaning to it. And Alex, that book I was talking about earlier about tongue, about how to interpret language a little bit differently, that's what that book does. It really helps you to interpret and feel more to get through the emotional part of things. So you have a real sense and high level idea of what's happening to your body. So we can avoid all the physical stuff down the road when we say, how did this happen? Or how did we get here? Or one of those types of things.
Yeah. Well, I would like to know if there's any information you can give our listeners without giving away your whole package of stuff. What are some like intentional things they can do or tips that they can take from this session and apply to their life to help?
Some of these are probably known. The first thing you need to do, in my opinion, is journal. And there's a book, I will give you the link. I downloaded it. I give it away to everybody. It's a 15-minute book. It's called It Works by R.H.J. It was written in the early 1900s. I listened to this book probably 3 to 4 times a week. It's incredible. And it basically tells you that if you want something, you can get it. But there's a format and there's a structure. And it is, if you look at everything today that everyone posts about it, it's nothing but a replica. This is the original. This is the way how it works. Journal every day. Speak your emotions in writing. This big board that's behind me, when I have folks that come over, the first thing I do is I get this pen right here and I'll say, start writing. And they go, yeah, but I go, we'll talk after. Start writing. And they start writing. And they go, what do I write? Whatever you want. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no nothing. What comes out, what expresses itself right there, the tears that fall or the happiness that shows comes out through this pen. The pen is mightier than the sword. So they start writing. So journal every day and let it rip, let it go. Because if you don't, it will do something else. Those thoughts are energy. And if it doesn't come out on paper, it's going to come out a different way. So that's the emotional part. That's the easy one. The other one is my high suggestion is that everyone starts taking on regular blood donations once every 8 weeks. Whole blood only, not the, what do they call that? The platelets. Yeah. Thank you for filling in the word. Yeah. So platelets, gravity only, out only, every 8 weeks. And there's a bunch of reasons why. It's what I call a human oil change. And if you own a car, which I'm sure both of you do, I don't know if it's electric or not, but if it still has oil in it and you had like a slow drip on the bottom, if you were to drop a quart of oil, and you added a new quart of oil, would you ever need to completely replace your entire oil at one time? Most people would say no. And when you're dropping a pint of blood once every 8 weeks, your body then has to produce new red blood cells from the spleen, the bone marrow, or the liver. And it's releasing excess iron, it's getting rid of excess toxins, and eventually over time, over about 3 cycles, you have more fresh new blood than not. That was the biggest needle mover that's free. And for those people, especially who don't or cannot afford really good health insurance, go donate blood. It will absolutely change your life. It will pretty much, if you start not eating junk food with that, get rid of most of the health issues that you have. Like I was saying, I give away a lot of information because people are like, well, tell me more. And then don't just drink water. Water is not going to move the needle. You have got to add salt to your diet. Now, it's not table salt. It's not iodized salt. That stuff will kill a fish. I'm not kidding. Go read a study that says salt, iodine, fish. You'll find it kills it, okay? And it kills it less than 24 hours. So it shuts down your thyroid and it breaks down selenium, because when you look at an alchemy level, at a chemical level, because there's only 3 modes to the body. That's chemical, functional, and structural. At a chemical level, if you bring in too much iodine that's manufactured, it's going to wipe out your selenium, which is one of the main ways of how your thyroid functions. So for all the women who are listening who have thyroid issues, bingo, get rid of it. You want to get a lot of heavily dense, third-party tested Celtic or minimally dense sea salt. Combine them. I don't have an affiliation with anyone there, but I buy one from Amazon, which I've tested. I buy another one from a different company, and I marry them together, and I make this big jar of salt. I probably have at least 2 large tablespoons worth of salt every day, and it's completely, again, free. Changed my life. So when you're drinking the water, throw a couple pieces on your tongue. When you're having a meal, sprinkle it all over. It's really going to move the health needle for most people. And then the last part, and this is where someone probably would have to say, hey, how do I eat? Is we put together not an anti-inflammatory diet, but one that not only gets rid of all the inflammation and helps detoxify the body, but the last one is that it gives you cellular hydration back. The reason why cellular hydration at a root cause level, everyone will say in the market, if you listen into social media, oh, you need these 3 things. How many times did those 3 things ever really work? They may be painting over rust, but it's really not working. And eventually what ends up happening, the body's going to go, you're still not giving me what I need. And then the questions come up, well, I thought I was doing everything right. I'm taking my supplements. Most people don't know this. Over 90% of the supplements that are allowed to be sold in this country are poisons, period. And I have the research and I have the receipts. That's why we put together the My Deficiencies app. So you can type in that brand or that specific vitamin D, for example, and vitamin E completely depletes vitamin A because that's its synergistic equivalent on top of it. And if you don't have enough vitamin A, vitamin D doesn't activate. Vitamin D doesn't activate, K2 doesn't form. And then you go down the whole chain cycle. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then we've known since mid-1920s, Nobel Peace Prize won in 1929, that a lack or a deficiency in vitamin A literally creates the environment for cancer to thrive. And go donate blood, go drink a lot of water with a lot of salt on it, sprinkle that salt all over your food, and journal like you're speaking to a best friend.
And
Those are great.
Scott, you were really kind because he also has, as he mentioned, the My Deficiency app, which is free, but on his website you have a natural energy course, which is also free, correct?
We do, yeah. We have a lot of case studies in there that we just give. We're giving a lot of information away for free on purpose and by design. People are scared and they feel stuck and they don't know what to do. And the last thing, Billy Carson, who is this gentleman who talks about aliens and all this kind of stuff, but he made one comment one day, everything happens for us, not to us, when we said earlier. But I was walking by some podcast interview that a friend was listening to, and he goes, once we take out capitalism out of healthcare, everything will change. And I said, who said that? And that's how I learned who this person was. That's why we're giving it all away for free. Everyone's going to make their money and they're going to make a living off of this. But people are scared and they don't know who to trust anymore. And right now in our country, because of the separation and because of COVID and every other reason that we want to blame, the whole trust factor is gone. And we have to build up rapport again. We have to build up trust with each other. And we have to be willing to have open conversations without judgment. And once that happens, and I'm not talking about physicalities here or vitamins or anything else. This is all pure emotions. We got to love each other again. Just, be like, hey, and if you disagree, go, something, I understand what you're saying, but I don't really agree with that. Or explain it to me a little bit better. And just have more dialogue, what it really comes down to. And then the other stuff, it will happen. So in that case study that you mentioned, Cristina, we had a person who had a PSA count, which is an enlarged prostate in a man. It was 6.3. In 32 days, we got it down to 0.08. We had someone who had a diabetic wound who had diabetes because of a hypothyroid issue that was misdiagnosed. She had then developed a type 2 diabetic result and then had an open foot wound, and they were talking about amputation in her foot. We closed it in 27 days, all through hydration. And then we had another one who had so much joint pain and inflammation. If you saw her when she first got married only 5 years ago till now, her face was almost double the size. And we got all her energy back. She couldn't even stand up. And we got to the point where we were like, how do you feel? She's like, I haven't been able to stand this long for years. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So we give away those case studies and we give everyone the information, say, this is how we did it and why we did it. So they can go watch it for free. Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that.
That's great. And yeah, we'll put that information in the show notes as well. Okay, we are to the part of the show where I ask every guest these same 2 questions. So I'm going to ask you, Scott. The first question is, what sets your soul on fire?
I don't believe so far, most of the people that I've spoken to, that they give their passion enough credit. My passion is not just helping people, but it's my own fulfillment to help people. In different parts of conversations, it says, what is the meaning of life? Alan Watts said it best, life. Wayne Dyer said it this way: you are not God, but you are altogether God. God created you to express himself through you, to experience what it would be through your eyes, through your lens. This is my expression. This is what is my only and absolute obsession and passion. It's not just to help people, but it's to know that I'm going to leave a dent. So when people come back to even this podcast, because someone's going to see it at some point, right? Whether it be one day, 1 year, in 10 years. This will be around because once it's on the internet, it lives forever. And someone's going to go, holy crap, yeah, I get it. And this level of obsession and passion isn't bad. It's a necessity because this is what it takes to create change, whether it's just for yourself or a larger dichotomy, whether it's our communities or our nation, etc.
Great. Okay, the second question. If somebody else is trying to figure out what sets their soul on fire, what advice could you give them?
Go sit in a dark room with no sound, no light, and just ask questions once the thoughts come in. It sounds very taboo or very different. That's God speaking to you. Whether the crazy thoughts or the not so crazy thoughts, whatever they are, just sit there and accept and be comfortable. And when you leave that moment, now it could be like a retreat, it could be for 3 hours, just sit there in silence and listen to the thoughts. And don't think that you're thinking them because you're not. Observe them instead. Observe them as someone else was observing you, like someone else was observing them, observing you, and keep going down the line. And every time you want to add that layer, and then eventually when you think about that thought, you'll go, that was funny. That's how and then eventually what will happen, you'll have your own aha moment. And this is something I do suggest a lot. You can never teach someone an aha moment. They have to have it on their own. You can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink. Their aha moment will happen when it's time and when they're willing and open to accept that aha moment. And then that's it. So how do you find your own purpose? Go sit in silence and see what shows up and be comfortable sitting in silence. Most people are afraid to do that because there's so much noise and so much activity going on around us that we've lost touch in sitting in silence.
That's great. I actually love sitting in silence. I like to hide in my closet in the silence. That's what happens when you have teenagers, I think.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, going to the kids real quick. We are constantly moving. And my mother just left this morning. I dropped her off at the airport and came back. And we're just sitting there talking. And she's like, I see everything that you're talking about. She's like, people are coming in, they're coming out. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're eating, they're not eating. It's just a constant. It's like a rotary. Like people just doing their thing,
Their phones are on. Everyone has the video playing.
And there's a reason that we say be still, right? That is a direction. Be still and know. Be still and know me. Be still and know you. Like, be still. And there's no better way to do that than to exactly what you said, which is to Some people call it meditation, but just to be.
Yep. Can I make one more comment before we wrap up?
Absolutely.
There's one book that I would suggest that everyone listen to. My response to this book was, I didn't think this was going to happen. But when I got to the end of the book, I'm really not going to give too much away because I don't want to steal someone's aha moment. I fell to my knees and started crying. I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't